evening. Welcome to our third community meeting on the proposed replacement of the Squantum Elementary School. I am Paul Hines. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Public Buildings. I'm joined here by members of the DPW and the School Building Committee and my colleagues in government. I've got Paul Costello, the City Engineer, Joe Shea, Principal at Granite City Partners, with Olivia behind him. We have Commissioner Al Grazioso from the DPW. We have Brian LaRoche from the Project Manager of PCA 360, and Larry Sprang, one of the architects and principals at Arrow Street, our design partner. Autumn Waldron's around here somewhere, or against the wall. We have members of the School Building Committee, as well as Superintendent Kevin Mulvey. We have Frank Santoro, Walter McDonald, and from the team, I think that's it. We have a couple of school committee members as well. So we of course have Principal Steve Silva. He's been an integral part of this whole process and the planning and both how we're going to pull this off and what we're going to build. So I do bring the greetings of the mayor and his well wishes to you. He did get called out tonight. He fully intended to be here and host the meeting, so I'm his proxy for this. So he told me to behave myself. As well as Councilor Harris. I believe he got pulled out to a wake. I'm not exactly certain what happened to Bill, but he extends his greetings and his welcome and his appreciation for your taking part of this process as well. We do know it's warm out. We do hope to convey the information that we hope to and you probably want, but we hope to do it in a rather concise and expedited manner. So I'm not going to speak too much further, except for to say that we listened to the community. We understand some principles that were asked. They want to keep all of the students on the peninsula during construction. They want to save the 2 oak trees out along Hopkins Avenue in the front lawn. They want to save the 1919 building. And with the design as proposed to date, we have been able to meet all of those expectations and those desires. The plans that you see tonight are not 100% the building plans. They are the final product of the schematic design. They have now been submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and we have released the design team to move forward with the design development, which will take us eventually to construction plans for bidding. We did have approvals from the City Council last Monday's meeting for an additional $1 million in seed money to keep the coffers flush while we do a lot of the enabling work ahead of time, advanced in the design, and some infrastructure work. The infrastructure work will be detailed from the DPW team, of course, but first we'll have the design team. And so I'll actually call up first Brian LaRoche from PCA 360. We'll do some more preliminaries and turn it over to Larry with the Arrow Street.
Thank you, Paul. All right. We're very excited to be here tonight. The project has reached a very important milestone. We're now at the end of schematic design. We've had Arrow Street on the team now for a year. So we're tonight going to show you a year's worth of effort that is a combined effort of nearly every city department that's been involved in the project. Plus the design team and their extensive group of consultants and our office as well. So with that, I'll just tell you a little bit about the project schedule and timeline. As Paul mentioned just a moment ago, the City Council just approved additional funds for the project, which allows us to accelerate the project. So we're very happy to report that we're about 3 months ahead of schedule, and we're able to do that by letting the design team continue forward on the design while the MSBA this summer is going to be reviewing the schematic design submittal. That package that we just submitted to the MSBA a few days ago is about 2,000 pages thick of an unbelievable amount of work product that has been created to lay this foundation for the project. So we are now at the end of that point. And after this point, now we really start to get into finessing the design. As Paul said, it's not fully worked out and resolved, but it's pretty darn close, and we're really excited with where we ended up in the design. As Paul said, we feel like we've heard the community, and we've been able to find a solution that ticks all of the boxes of what people were looking for. So with that, I'll just tell you briefly about what's to come ahead. This next phase will be designed, so we're going to continue to update the community as we go. We have a website that we keep updated as we have new iterations of the design. We put it up there, so you'll see a QR code in a little bit. But the construction timeline is now in sync with the school year. That's really important by accelerating the 3 months. So at this point, we are on track for next summer to be doing what we call early enablement work. And that's preparing the site for the students to move into their temporary school. They'll be there for a couple of years. That'll allow us, while the students are away off the site, to do all those moves. And when they return, everything is going to be behind a fence, and the site will be safe for them. So we're pretty excited for that. And then the full new construction will begin in the fall of next year. So that's when the construction of the new school will happen. And then from there, it's about a 22-month duration. And then we'll move the students in September of 2027 into the new building. And then we're going to have to spend the fall, right up till about Christmas, removing the temporary school that we have, the modular classrooms, putting the parking lot in, finishing the road, and finishing the site itself. So it's a long process, but right now we're really happy with the way it's aligning. And it's a plan that's been put in place, and we're really happy with it. So with that, I'd like to introduce Larry Spang, who's the principal with Arrow Street, to show you the design.
I'll just use it for the laser pointer.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah, that should work. Okay. Hopefully folks can see that. Greetings, everyone. Thanks so much for coming in on a hot June night. It is hard to believe we've been doing this for about a year, because we had originally been hired in the late spring of last year, and we worked very quickly to get ourselves up to speed and going so that we could do a lot of the original due diligence work over the course of last summer. So excited to be back. And as Brian mentioned, we've been really busy. We appreciate it, all the support we've gotten from the city and all the city departments. And I think, as you'll see, they've really pushed us and challenged us to create what we hope will be a wonderful school. So just to give you a quick orientation, again, here is, we're not seeing that. You can sort of see that. Here's the existing site and school. We're in the gym over here. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Paul. This is Winslow Road, the paper street, which you'll see we're reactivating, and then the existing Moses Fields playground and play field. So, let's see. There we go. So this is a site plan showing what will be here, as Brian says, in about three and a half years. But the goal is to build, there we go, the new school on this end of the site. What that allows us to do, as Brian was saying, is keep the 1971 portion of the building active during the construction period, and we'll go through that in some detail. Later, that becomes the staff parking. Winslow Road becomes the drive-through and a place for parents to drop off, families to drop off students, pick up students, trying to take some of the load off of Huckins, and then doing some work and you'll see this, putting in some geothermal wells into the playground, using that as staging area, and then returning that, restoring it to a park-like space. And we're also planning, that's not going to work so well, a small addition to the existing playground, which we think will be a wonderful asset. So we just wanted to put this back up. This was the sort of diagram of how the building will be organized. We'll show you the floor plans in a minute. But as you can see, the piece on the right, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the admin offices are sort of the public part of the school, and that will be set up to support the community in the afternoons, nights, and weekends. The rest of the school in that light blue is the classroom bar, which wraps around the courtyard. And then in front is the 1919 building, which is reimagined as the media center or the library, as most people think about it. And so we think that's going to be a really nice reuse of the existing building, and we'll show you some images of that. So these are the floor plans in a little more detail. We have down along Huckins Ave, you'll see it's labeled main entrance. That's sort of the front door of the school with the administrative offices in red right adjacent to it and providing a good and secure access. And then going right the way through the school all the way to the back where it's labeled north entrance is sort of what we consider kind of a main street. And you'll see that is a three-dimensional view. And really that connects the cafeteria, the gym, and allows the students and the users of the school to circulate around. The classrooms, which are shown again in the blue with the special ed classrooms in that lavender color, and then the media center here in the area of the 1919 building. Upstairs, similar, it's sort of an L-shaped classroom wing at this point. There's a stair that'll bring us up from the cafeteria area, and then a series of classrooms, and you'll see each of the grades has a sort of neighborhood feel. So the grade 4 and grade 5 are sort of creating neighborhoods around which the students begin to work. And you'll see some informal learning spaces that again give it that sort of work within the classroom, work outside of the classroom, and really help to build engagement with the students. We wanted to mention there's a small basement due to the slope of the site. If you'll notice, it slopes about 18 to 19 feet from the very top end here down to the bottom end. And so we're slipping in a little basement under there, which will take care of a lot of the mechanical equipment, so we're not sort of fronting the building with mechanical equipment. We talked last time about some of the precedent images, some of the things we're pulling from, where we really try to work and understand, what's wonderful here in Squantum, both the residential scale houses on the left, as well as some of the more larger buildings that were here or once here, and sort of pulling ideas from there, and we hope you'll see that as we start to show the building. And then thinking about materials, and we'll sort of walk you through, but thinking through and trying to find materials that really worked with the Squantum community. So what we wanted to do was show you views first starting on Huckins, looking at, in this case, the existing building there on the left, and what will be proposed, and then we're going to circle around the building, and you can see sort of more detail as we go. So moving from that view, this is a little closer, so it's a little more prominent, but nevertheless, this is the classroom wing on the left, shown here, and let's see if my laser pointer will work for me. Yeah, here we go. So right here is the classroom wing. Here's the 1919 building, which is being preserved and enhanced. So that really becomes a fulcrum of the project. And as Paul mentioned, the 2 trees that we are saving as part of the process. So what it happens is it steps back about 10 to 15 feet from where the gym is today, and it steps this way from Mayflower another 8 or 10 feet, I think, if I remember correctly. This is the view at the other end of Huckins, looking back at the building. And as you can see, here we are with the 1919 building sort of out and proud and restored, and the rest of the building falling back behind it. And after the presentation, everyone's welcome to come up. We've got a 3-dimensional model here. You can get a better sense of it. This is a view of that front door, so now we're going to start to work our way around the building. So very much we're trying to work with the scale of the 1919 building, creating an entrance that feels right and appropriate but doesn't overshadow the building. And then what you're seeing there on the right is the admin spaces that I pointed to earlier. This is the view sort of looking from the corner of Huckins across the parking lot. You'll see there on the bus drop-off on the left. One of the things we are doing is pulling the buses into the site on that parking lot area so that they're not on the street or on the back street on Winslow. But this is sort of the side entrance with the admin offices on the left. In this case, the music room behind the stage, which is behind the cafeteria. Just for a minute to talk about the materials, what we're looking at here is a terracotta slate. And so it's a terracotta tile that looks like either slate or clapboards, shingles. And so the goal was to have something that really had the sense of squantum and yet be a durable material. So that's one of the things that we thought would be a really nice, and it gives us that lovely texture and feel and seaside look while maintaining the durability of the material. This is a view of that back entrance off of the Paper Street in Winslow in the back, and so this would be the door. On the left is the gymnasium. On the right is a series of classrooms and nurses' offices right near that back door. But this is looking at the back of the building. And then this is at the corner down, essentially down here at Mayflower and a little forward of Winslow. But you can see what we're trying to do is keep the classrooms at a scale that feels residential. It was very important to the folks on the city that this have a look and feel like it belongs. And so one of the things we worked hard on, and we spent a lot of time on, was these sloped roofs. And what we're doing is we're hiding the mechanical equipment behind the sloped roofs, so you won't be seeing those from the ground or from peeking out. And you can see, we can point out some stuff on the model, you can see where those are happening. But we feel it gives it a really nice scale, it gives it a nice form, and it hopefully is a wonderful place for the kids to come and learn. And this is that view coming around to sort of the corner of Mayflower and Hutkins, looking at creating a retaining wall and some vegetation along the edge there to kind of soften what is today a pretty hard wall up against the sidewalk. And then on the lower floor here is the kindergarten rooms, and on the upper floor is the upper grades, 4th and 5th grades. And again, stepping back, you can see the 1919 building over in the corner of the view. This is looking inside, so as if we just went in the front door right off of Hutkins, and I mentioned the main street, which is going off to the right here. Immediately in front of those folks is the cafeteria. So connecting the cafeteria, the main thing that we were excited about was the idea of a courtyard in there, and making that a wonderful space that really activates the school, but also brings light in and allows it to have a sense of place. We've got a few little spots that we're working on, places for students to pull off and kind of have a quiet moment if they feel like that's necessary and appropriate. And then just to the left is the entrance to the library. One of the things we're excited about is the potential to reuse the doors which are in there today and create a new entrance set of doors to the library, which is on the left here. So we're moving through and behind, this is the stair that I mentioned near the cafeteria. This will be the open connection, connecting the second floor to the first floor, and really trying to make it very simple and straightforward for the kids to go upstairs. We know this is currently essentially a one-story building with a set of steps, but trying to connect those two so it feels like one building. And then off to the left is the courtyard. This is a view of the cafeteria. What we're looking at is creating a space that is going to support the community. Just on your left there, you'll see the stage, a series of spaces that are kind of allow some kids a little bit of a quiet and sheltered space within the big cafeteria. And then off to the right there, you'll see the view through the windows to the Main Street hallway to the courtyard beyond. And so we're envisioning that this is going to be full of light and really be a very energetic place in the middle of the school. This is a view of the repositioned 1919 building, the library view. So you'll see there in the middle is the doors. We're going to restore a sense of those doors, although they really won't be operable except for special events or special occasions, but for security reasons, mostly closed. but nevertheless, this will be this, what we think could be a really wonderful space for the students and become the other heart of the school, in this case, the heart of the sort of learning aspects of the school as opposed to the cafeteria, which is more of a social heart to the school. And that view to the right connects to the hallway, which connects to the courtyard. So we think there will be some wonderful light that comes through and gives a great sense of space there. We'd be remiss without showing you some classrooms. I don't think there's a lot that doesn't look familiar, except maybe the fact that classrooms today are a little differently organized than all of us may be used to. But nevertheless, really repurposing the classrooms, having a lot of light and views, particularly the second floor views looking out on the park and the water beyond. And this is one of the, excuse me, the kindergarten classrooms. One of the things we've talked about is having cubbies within the classrooms, create a space for the students to come in, put their books down, put their coats, take their coats off, boots, all those kind of things, in a way that's sort of controlled. The teacher has an eye on them because they're in the classroom, they're not out in the hallway wandering around, but also in a way that doesn't clutter up the classroom. So that, I think, will be a very nice improvement for the kindergarten classrooms. So what we wanted to do was walk you through, so that's the goal at the end of this time, and now let's walk through the specifics of how we get there. As Brian mentioned, you'll start to see some of the DPW improvements that are going to happen as early as this summer. And Joe, I think you're going to speak to that. But the water main upgrade, we're going to be putting in place the temporary Winslow Road, essentially to try and free up Hutkins to do more of the drop-off activities back there rather than up front, as well as get the whole site prepped. So you'll start to see some of that happening. What you'll see in the spring is a little bit of enabling work. One of the things we want to do is get the geothermal wells in place. So those will be drilled, so there'll be a portion of the park that's fenced off, similar to what it is today. A little different shape, but nevertheless will be fenced off. And then starting in the spring and summer is the underground work, starting to put in and take the overhead wires down and put them in under the street. And Joe will talk about that a little more in a minute. Oh, and I should go back and say, so the school is open during this time in the spring of next year, and the playground is open. This is the condition, and we'll have another detailed blow up, excuse me, of the school building. But essentially, as Brian was mentioning, what will happen is in the summer of next year will be what we call a summer slammer. Is to essentially pull the two buildings apart in terms of the systems. So setting up, we're keeping the 1971 wing, which is the wing closest to Standish, active. That will be where the kids are. We're bringing in modular classrooms, which are shown there in the back. And all of that is going to be set up so that it's self-supporting for 2 years. So really pulling apart the building systems, and there'll be a lot of work this summer. In addition to putting a fence around the site and starting to get ourselves ready for construction activities, which will then take place between the summer of 2025 and essentially summer of 2027. The construction of the main part of the building here in that blue area, what we're envisioning, and we haven't started to talk to a contractor yet, but certainly will be part of the process, is a construction laydown and staging area in the back there, and that sort of building on the space where the geothermal wells are, and that's why we're trying to get those in early so that then they can use that for trailers and other activities that they'll need for the building. Building the site, the school is happening there to the right. Again, trying to minimize the impact on the students and the staff. This is an enlarged version of the school, as you see. We're again, activating the keeping the 1971 building. We're doing some internal renovations, for instance, trying to convert the existing library into the cafeteria, and putting up some partitions around it in a way to minimize any noise or other activities, distractions, putting in the temporary classrooms, providing all the power and the heat and all those kind of things that they're going to need to operate for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, in the fall of 2027, really, September 1st of 2027, the new building opens. The existing school will then the fence will essentially shift. You'll see that light blue area. That'll become the active construction area. There's some amount of remediation that'll happen in there. Then demolition, then construction of the parking lot and the driveways, and then construction or restoration really of the park in addition to the slight expansion of the playground. So this will probably be the part as Brian was mentioning, in the fall and into the spring of 28, when the park will be most impacted by the school and the construction operations. Other than that, we're trying to keep it open as much as possible during that period. And then at the end of all that, in the spring of 2028, we have a finished building. So with that, yes, next steps, we'll go through this quickly. So as Brian mentioned, here we are at the end of June. We submitted our schematic design documents last week on Friday. We have a period over the next few months while the MSBA is looking at our drawings. They will look at and agree to the project scope and budget in September, October-ish, and then really pushing forward to start of construction in 2025. Depending on the enabling work, and we're doing more studies on that, you may start to see a little bit of work over like the Christmas, New Year's holiday, and or some of the school vacation weeks. We may try to get a little pieces of work done, but that's all remains to be seen. So with that, Joe, you're up.
I'm Joseph Shea, a partner with Granite City Partners, an engineering firm here in the city of Quincy. One of my partners, Olivia Bondenbenken, is with us tonight. We are West Quincy people, so we appreciate you letting us come down the causeway. We brought our passports, we were able to get in. And we get to talk about the pipes around the school. So what you just saw was very boring. My stuff is really exciting because engineering pipes are terrific. From a big picture standpoint, we always start with where the city is at. The city has a major amount of infrastructure. Commissioner Grazioso and City Engineer Paul Costello are perpetually managing hundreds of miles of sidewalk, roadways, water, pipe. And in preparation for the Squantum Elementary School project, for several years now, we've been in anticipation of the schematic design you just saw so that we would know where and how to best plug in new water mains, new drainage system. The city every year has a rolling program under the mayor's leadership and the city council's approval where water mains and roadways are approved every couple years, but sewers and drains are approved on a year-by-year basis. In aggregate, the city has increased the amount of work that they do across all of their roadways and all of their water mains. This is a chart from the last 8 years that I find very exciting, that I'm going to move on from. And how this all relates to projects around the Squantum Elementary School is that the school is the heart of Squantum, and that heart is going to be renewed and replaced with a beautiful structure as we just saw, but we're also going to replace all the valving around that heart. And our goal is to do as much of it this summer as possible, such that when the school project gets to what was called the enabling phase next summer, the public works components are pretty much done and out of the way. Yes, roadways will need to be paved at the end, but in terms of anything that's buried, our goal is to complete it and be out of the way. So that includes 4 elements. Water main replacements that we'll talk a little bit about. Drain pipe installation, which is a large component of the project, especially given now that the schematic design has been submitted and Winslow Road will be reinstalled behind our school here. That changes the whole dynamic of how stormwater may run off the site, especially the park component of the site. Sewer lining will be done, and we've been working rigorously with National Grid regarding the undergrounding of the electrical system around the school. That includes some Comcast, Verizon, some wires, and some controls associated with the fire station. And we want to briefly touch on all of those because the top three are definitely happening this summer, and that's for anybody who's an immediate abutter. That's going to be disruptive. Right? At times, there's going to be a lot of construction, might be a little irritating, might be a little dusty. But for everybody who goes up and down Huckins, which is everybody, there's going to be impacts to the way traffic flows this summer up and down Huckins. With that, I'd like to just introduce Dan Gianandrea. Dan is one of the engineers in the city's DPW department who's overseeing the water main installation. This project has been bid. It has a contractor. It has a schedule. And for those who are impacted by what Dan's going to present, meaning Huckins, Mayflower, and Dundee Road residents immediately around the school, there'll be a flyer that is dropped in all of the houses, I think Dan said tomorrow, regarding contact numbers, because that project is ready to go. Dan, would you like to take a moment and just discuss your water main project?
Hi, folks. So I'm Dan. I'll be on site full-time for the entire duration of the water main project and most likely the installation of the new drain line in the area going down Winslow. So we're actually replacing all of Mayflower Road and all of Huckins from Bellevue down to East Squantum. And when I say East Squantum, I mean seawall East Squantum. So initially, the most important thing to do is to set up temporary bypass. And we're going to start that on Mayflower Road. In order to replace a water main, I have to provide everyone with temporary water, and that water is safe. That'll be chlorinated, flush tested, and lab results will prove to be safe. So we'll have to connect your homes to the temporary water line. That's usually our biggest challenge, to convince people to let us in. But I will be there full-time to make sure that there's a city representative there. And so when it's all said and done, temporary water lines will be around the, say, circumference of your street, providing water to all of Mayflower, all of Huckins. So the good news is that I don't foresee anyone actually losing water at all during construction, which is great considering it's summertime and obviously people need their water. So unless there's an emergency, and I really don't think there will be, we should be perfectly fine and everyone will have water. However, if there is an issue, we will give you 48 hours notice that you won't have water, and those shutdowns will be brief. It'll probably be for the morning that you won't have water, but then it'll be restored shortly after noon. So that's kind of the way it goes. We've replaced lots of water main in Squantum successfully, and it's gone quick. And so I really don't foresee any problems now. And that's really it. I'm very visible. Please feel free to, call me or just track me down. I actually have some information about the project. In the back, I'll hang around at the end of the meeting in case you have anything specific about your home, or if you're wondering just more details, I can fill you in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. In addition to water main, the City Council approved Squantum area drainage increases. This was designed with the new school in mind. The city engineer, Paul Costello, has overseen the bidding. We now have a contractor on budget. Contractor is ready to start, and Paul's going to speak briefly about that project.
Thank you, Joe, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Paul Costello. I'm the city engineer, and part of this project, we'll be spending about $1 million on drainage improvements, additional concrete pipe, drain manholes, catch basins, and so forth. That work is being done largely to alleviate some of the storm water that's going to Huckins Ave, which tends to be inundated, it floods, particularly the water from Mayflower that is flowing towards Huckins Ave. So, as you can see on the plan, on Standish Ave, We're taking just a small section of water that typically is running onto the school. We're going to intercept that and move in a northeast direction. And we'll run that through a new pipe through the school property, which is Winslow Road. And we're extending that. So any drainage on that road as well will go into a new pipe. So on Mayflower, which is more the critical area, the water that's been draining towards Huckins Avenue will be draining in the opposite direction. So we'll be taking that water towards Winslow as well. So then both Standish, Mayflower will be draining towards Winslow, and we'll be running the water down Winslow Road to East Quantum Street, and we'll be upsizing the outfall pipe that goes out Dorchester Street. So we're taking stormwater that's been flowing down Huckins and impacting the bottom at East Quantum Street. We'll be redirecting that with a new permanent outfall pipe that will be upsized and will alleviate that water. So we'll be solving the school drainage simultaneously with the regional drainage issues we've been having. And like Dan, I'll be here afterwards. I have a set of the drawings. The contractor has been selected and he anticipates starting soon. Yeah, that's all stormwater that I've been, all this piping that you see will be for stormwater. Obviously the stormwater on the hill eventually goes down to the sea. So it's tidal at the bottom, and the new outfall pipe will have a tide gate in it. The city is doing an inundation study of that phenomenon. Sea level rise is happening. And if you'd like to talk to me afterwards, I can explain all that stuff too. The city has a lot of drainage stuff going on, seawalls and so forth.
Thank you very much, Paul. The third component we talked about is sewer improvements on Mayflower and Huckins down Winslow. The benefit of the sewer improvements, unlike the water main and drain pipes, which must be dug up with an excavator, the sewer is lined in place. You may not even know this is happening, but the sewer contractors slip a solid liner through the sewers that's got a structural component, and it effectively leaves you with brand new sewers, watertight, without having to dig up the roadways. And the final component for the infrastructure is the Squantum area electrical improvement undergrounding. This was described appropriately in the school presentation as being done before next summer's enabling work. We're hoping for winter or spring. We do not have a final design from National Grid. We do not have a bid schedule, but we have every intention to underground the system on Mayflower from Winslow Road to Huckins, all the way across the face of the school, and then from Standish down to the playground. A few components of that undergrounding design that's being done for the improved electrical system for the school, but also to improve the resiliency and redundancy of the electrical system around the school. As you know, this is one of the city shelters, so we want to make sure we improve the redundancy of power to the shelter. There are 14 or 15 individual homes that will have their electric service brought from overhead to underground. So if you are one of the homes that abuts this red line from Winslow Road down to Huckins, all the way across and up Standish to the park, you have already received a letter. You may have already heard from Olivia and I, and we are available at the back of the room to just talk about how this process is unfolding over the course of the next few months with National Grid. One other component of the electrical undergrounding that was on the slides associated with the school is we are removing the poles because Huckins Ave is being widened. And this portion of Mayflower is being widened as the building comes back. So the poles are going to be relocated anyways. Great opportunity to not replace poles with poles, but actually underground them as the project progresses. So again, we hit that at a very high level. We've got plans and details that we'd be happy to talk about DPW components at the back of the room, while you may want to talk about school components in the model at the front of the room. But we will be here for any questions. And with that, I'm going to go back to the QR code and hand it back to Commissioner Hines.
Okay. If I may, just to supplement one aspect of the undergrounding of the electric. the widening of Huckins, it's designed to allow parking stalls. It's going to widen onto school property to allow the parking along Huckins Avenue and leave Huckins Ave a two-way street to alleviate the chaos that we all get the pick-up and drop-off times. The same thing, this portion of Mayflower, to allow the traffic circulation, because by and large, the parent drop-off is going to be on the back door of the school at Winslow, so there'll be live parking around the pick-up here and the drop-off. So removing those poles is for the resiliency, quite honestly, it's for the aesthetics, but by and large, it's to allow the traffic circulation improvements that we all know are desperately needed as part of the project. So with that, then again, that's the QR code. You can see the website dedicated to the project is squantumschool.com. We would entertain any further questions you may have at this time for any of the teams or disciplines, and I'll try to softball them in their directions. Question is, what's the duration of the water main project? Okay, I'll just mention one thing too. Commissioner Grazioso has been adamant. The stormwater work behind the school on what's Winslow Road and out will not happen until after the parade. So, there's one thing common too with the multiple utilities going in, with the sewer lining, with the water going in, the stormwater going in. People sometimes look and say, they already dug it up, why didn't they put both pipes at the same time? Now they're digging it up again. That would seem to be a simple solution, but it's really not based in reality. You got different contractors, different elevations, different crews. You really do need to do them sequentially rather than simultaneously. When there's instances that they can be executed at the same time, realizing those economies of both calendar and dollars, that will happen. But that's really kind of the exception to the rule. I do want to say one thing. We're talking about schedule and the undergrounding of the electric. We're doing the design through Granite City Partners and National Grid for the undergrounding. We'll be installing the conduits. We will be ready for National Grid. We cannot control National Grid. We may have our conduits in the ground and our project flying by, and you'll still see poles. That in fact, that's probably likely going to be what happens. The poles will remain for some time until they get all the cabling in the ground. There is a lot of work to be done by National Grid, and it's done on their timetable.
One other point, not just electrical, we're pretty sure that National Grid will also come in and want to replace the gas line. So that's more disruption.
So Al, if you can hear, Al suggests that National Grid's probably going to want to do the gas lines before we do the streets over, which we would actually encourage. So that may be a third excavation of these streets, but you're not going to have the water department's contractor, National Grid, at the same time. And you'll see a lot of roads. It doesn't make sense to come in and pave a road and leave the old utilities. You do the utilities and you're done with the road, rather than having to dig it up and dig it up. So it is going to impact, it is going to be a problem for people. The professionals are doing it, will be minimized, but I don't want to stand here and tell you there will be no headaches. The goal is to not have them, but there will be. Okay, so there's basically three questions in one. I'll start with the air conditioning one. The school will be a resiliency hub. There will be a cooling center, the cafeteria, and the administration offices, because the administration works all summer, will be fully air conditioned, a refrigerated, cooled condition. Much like the Southwest Middle School, the new Southwest, the new Central Middle School, and the renovated portions of Broad Meadows that we've done, it's not a refrigerated system that is planned. It is dehumidification and cooling system. Quite frankly, some people said, well, you want to go net zero, that's why you're not fully executing that entire building. That's not an accurate statement. Net zero has no part of that equation. We would not have fully refrigerated or air conditioned this entire building. It's not what we do. The shoulder months are when the kids are in the building, they're not here all summer long. It is an astronomically expensive system. It's to both install and to operate and to maintain. And quite honestly, we do have the net zero goal. There is a energy use index of 25 that we need to stay under. We are bumping up it and making decisions based upon that right now. We would exceed it multiple times over if we did a fully air-conditioned building. So the students and staff will be comfortable, they will be cool. It's the same condition that they're experiencing at Southwest and Central Middle School today and the lucky portions of Broad Meadows. Another portion of the question was about the geothermal. So the geothermal wells have been advanced. We've got test pits out there. Go down about 500 feet, they were advanced into the ground. We hit the appropriate temperature water. Fortunately, adequate or appropriate temperatures, not as deep as we thought we would have to go. That's basically consistent, we'll call it 55-degree groundwater temperature all year long. So you use that water, you pump it through your system, and that's your starting point. So you're either heating from 55 degrees or you're cooling from 55 degrees. You're not starting from 32 degrees outside or whatever. So you get the benefit of that innate energy in the ground. That will assist the cooling system, and it will certainly be the primary source of heat for the building. The third part of the question was solar panels. We absolutely intend to have solar panels on the building. We are also mindful of the elevation changes with the hills up and reflection of those panels into homes in the neighborhood. The location of the panels being studied. There is a sufficient number of panels in the available area to us that we meet our goals. So between the geothermal and the solar that we are providing for as part of the construction project, we will at this point achieve our net zero status. With the whole building's gonna be net zero, but there'll be the tempered, I'll call it tempered area, though it's not a truly defined term, as opposed to air conditioned. So the tempered area. By and large, we're not constructing computer labs anymore, particularly in the elementary school level. It's the Chromebooks and laptops and that type of a thing. So we don't have as much of a concentration of the heat from the equipment that we once had. But they do give off heat, and that's factored into the heating and cooling load, the design by the engineers. So those areas will have appropriately maintained air temperatures. The areas where there's racks with the servers and all that, which do generate quite a bit of heat, they will have standalone, quite likely like Mitsubishi mini splits serving them, or you will have the equipment failures in your network. Again, as Paul suggested, the MBTA uses Huckins Avenue, and of our impacted streets, Huckins is the only one. It's not anticipated to be fully closed at any time. There may be detours around it, but there's also, in every project that they do, there's MBTA impacts, and they do have that open communication, and they do talk about that. What's the last part about Broad Meadows?
It's been very difficult to use Broad Meadows.
Right. So Broad Meadows, it's the cafeteria, the auditorium, the library, and only 4 classrooms. So, and if they have those doors open to the spaces that are not conditioned, they've lost their benefit. I would invite you to investigate the conditions at Southwest and Central, because they are fully done. But the design temperature for the classrooms, I believe, is 75 degrees? 78. So the highest temperature is 78 degrees, which they would welcome on a winter day. The cafeteria and the administration area, it's fully air conditioned. These systems, by and large, get you 15 degrees below the outside air. So if you get a 95-degree day, that takes you to 80 degrees indoors, which if you walk in from outside is quite refreshing and comfortable. In addition, a large part of the system is the dehumidification of it. So there's air tempering, and there's also the dehumidification, which really for the most part is what causes the uncomfortable condition. But again, this design isn't driven by the net zero. This design is driven by this is what we do. We have successfully implemented in the other new schools, and they operate quite well in them. Yes. There will be operable windows throughout for various reasons. That's factored into heat loads and cooling loads as well, and certainly something we learned in COVID. This will be a much better ventilated building than it has been to date, this new building. The only area that would not be designed with operable windows is the media center, and that's because of the number of the volumes of books and the humidity that's let in with opening the windows from the outer doors is detrimental to the volumes. Correct. That takes fully in the design. And plus, this building will have the appropriately spaced balusters in the railings or other obstructions, but many of those schools don't have. Yeah, so we call Winslow Road a paper street because it wasn't built. It will be built, so it will be a road. The intent is that that's the pickup and drop-off queuing for parents, one of the locations, and that the bus and vans would not utilize that road. The footprint, right, so the portion that's paved is brick and mortar. The portion that's behind the school that runs between the park and the school is the paper portion. So that's what we will be establishing. There's traffic patterns. We anticipated your question. But the short answer is this 1971 building footprint becomes the staff parking and the van and bus route, and traffic patterns, ultimate traffic patterns are being addressed here.
Yeah. So to answer your question, the blue line indicates the flow of traffic on Winslow Road, and there's parking stalls on the school side so parents can pull in, let the students out off the passenger side, and allow traffic to continue to flow through. The other thing you can see in the purple, those are parking stalls that are being added on the school side of the property, so that we're no longer having cars park on the house side and then having the students have to cross the road. This way parents can pull up on the curb in the flow of traffic, and the students are getting out on the safe side of the school on Hutkins and Mayflower. So that's the circulation pattern there. Your question about buses, in orange you can see on the diagram, the staff parking is this lot. There'll be no parents or students getting dropped off in this inner loop. This is just staff only. Buses will come into this zone. They'll have two separate lanes to be able to move through, so that everybody has, in essence, their own lane, and there won't be any mixing of circulation. So we really feel like we've solved traffic, pedestrian flow, bus flow, and so forth.
Now, how the buses get to that loop could be Huckins to Standish, or Standish from even Bellevue. They're public roads, I don't know. That would have to be established with the school department on what their routes will be. There's one other aspect I'd like to say. So Winslow Road, the former paper street that will be the parent queue behind the school building, there are traffic control gates at either end. So it is a one-directional road, and the traffic gates at either end is designed for the school day. So that queuing is for parents and drop-off and pickups during those times. During the day, those gates are designed to be closed, because at recess at various times, the kids do go across to the park and run around. So traffic would not be flowing through Winslow Road during those hours. It's the same thing. They're either going to come down Mayflower from Bellevue or Pratt or that area, or approach it from Huckins. That, you know, we see it all the time when schools go up, they put up the no right turns at certain hours and all that. So the off-site traffic circulation hasn't been done yet with the city engineers, the traffic management plan. This is the on-site at this point. You know, quite frankly, we've all seen it, and I was one of them. The parents drive wherever they want to get their kids on time, and then they complain about everyone else doing the same thing. And I was one of them, so I can say it. Okay, so the pedestrian planned points of access. You can see the yellow dotted lines are the proposed pedestrians. So you've got the Carmine side of Huckins, you've got the center crosswalk, you've got the crosswalk down at Standish and Huckins, and you've got the crosswalks at Winslow, at both Standish and Mayflower. And so again, for the students, the primary egress and ingress, pickup and drop-offs, are the main entrance on Huckins and the entrance on the north side. And if they're coming from the vans or buses, it's the east side. From that loop, there is a, right where it says parking entrance, there's an entrance there that those students will come in from.
Paul, just so to let everyone know, Huckins Ave, the concrete sidewalks, not that far, all the way up to Bellevue.
This is obviously going to take a learning curve with the parents and other guardians with the children for the drop-off, because you can see we're reversing what they're accustomed to. They currently drop off on the Carmine side, or they pull up all the side streets and block the driveways, and then everybody has to cross Huckins. So not only is Huckins not wide enough, you're constantly stopping the flow of traffic for the pedestrians to be crossed. This design reverses that. The parking queues will be on the school side, to minimize the crossing of Huckins Avenue. Quite frankly, we'll never stop people from parking up in the neighborhood and walking their kids down. There's just no way we could do it. But this configuration minimizes those crossing Huckins Avenue. The total project budget at this point, all in, utility improvements, the school, the construction costs, the furniture, the fixtures, the equipment, the designers, the OPMs and everything, at this point is $122 million, which is astronomical. That speaks to what the construction costs are right now. Now, we do have the preliminary reimbursement rate from the MSBA at, I believe it's 65%, but that's 65% gross. There's square footage they don't reimburse on. They also have caps of $600 and something a square foot for construction costs, when construction costs now are over $1,000. So we anticipate the net reimbursement to be about 25, maybe as high as 30% of the project cost. The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the principal, Frank Santoro, Tina Cahill are all on the school building committee. So they're involved in the weekly meetings on the design and the planning and the process, the calendar. So they're at the table as we go. There's also presentations under the city council to the school committee, various times the school community itself. The composition of the school building committee is actually dictated by this MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority. It has architects, it has community members, it has people versed in construction as architects. But again, we've got the principal, we've got the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. They had listening sessions with the faculty. They've had repeated meetings with the faculty, and who were amazing last summer and during the summer, you know, time off, vacation time, coming in and having these meetings. There are more meetings planned. Their information was all taken in part of the educational plan process. They're not done. Those will be part of the furthering conversation. But the schematic design that you see is a result of the collaboration with them and all of their input.
And Paul, they went on tours with us too, to the schools.
Correct. So Arrow Street has done other schools in the past. Parents, faculty, PTO members did tours of other facilities that were done. They saw the good, they saw the bad, they saw what they wanted, they saw what they didn't want. That was all taken to the design as well. And including, as I would say, you know, we mentioned earlier the mobile classrooms. There were tours specific to locations where they have those classrooms, and they were very, very positively received. There was even kind of a joke amongst the teachers that they're going to fight to be the ones that get to go to the mobile classrooms because they're air conditioned and bright and cheery, and not this dungeon. Yes?
During the 2-year construction.
I'm sorry.
During the 2-year construction process, while they're in temporary situations, I didn't see a gym. Anything schematic where they're going to have to.
So the area that's currently the media center is being reconfigured for the lunch program, for the things. It's going to be a case of orchestrating it or doing a dance. The tables fold up and go out. It'll be a gross motor skills space. So good weather, obviously, we're fortunate to have the park. Bad weather, there's motor skill type activities for phys ed designed for that same cafeteria space. We're also working a plan to utilize the gym at the Kennedy Center. We've had conversations with the folks down there. And Steve Silva, the principal, was working on devising how the blocks of time would work, utilizing the gym there. And the Kennedy Center has been more than willing to adjust their scheduled use of that space at the time. And we've devised a plan on how we can segregate and secure the students from the general population at the Kennedy Center as well. And I will mention too, we just had the meeting the other day, the temporary condition. We're still treating it as a school. We had a full-on security-specific meeting this week about intrusion alarms, video cameras, fire alarm, all the things you would expect, you know, the access control. So it may be temporary, but it's going to be secure as the new one will be. So, and there's one other thing that, you know, no one's very interested in, and I will. We're obviously constructing a building very close to the existing building. It's not the first time we've done it. Southwest Middle School, when it was Sterling, We actually had to cut 1/3 of the building off while the students were in the school with that 1/3 missing, their gym and classroom spaces to allow the footprint to build that facility. And it was very successfully done. It's not a simple chain link fence between the two facilities. It's a secure construction fence. We do require that anybody on the construction crew working at the site do pass the quarries, do have the fingerprinting because of the proximity to the student population. We just did the same thing to Cristofaro. And it's not a problem. If they can't pass it, we don't want them. So the contractors send the people that can pass them. So the safety of the students is paramount in both the construction phase of it and in the temporary conditions phase in the structures.